What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on? Touchdown Jesus to the national championship. Congrats to all my Notre Dame friends and family. I'm on several text chains with Notre Dame fans. Enormous win. Beat Georgia, beat Penn State in a crazy wild game, and are heading to the national championship. We don't know who you're going to play yet. Going to be a pretty big underdog, but incredible accomplishment for Notre Dame. Penn State, on the other hand, I don't know what that was. I hate myself right now. I have been hyping up Drew Allar as a draft prospect, and then I gambled on him tonight, and I will never hype him up again because that was an embarrassing performance. It truly was. And if it wasn't for Singleton and Allen and even Warren on a wildcat play, the quarterback play for Penn State tonight was atrocious. It really was. And their defense had a couple bad stretches. Now they made some big plays. We'll dive into it. Basically just going to react to this game. It was, I was fired up for it. I was excited for it. I was pacing around about an hour before the game, watching the pregame show, Saban, and then this happened. And, enjoyable experience unless you had money on Penn State. NFL playoffs. We're talking about the NFL playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is a key to winning in the NFL playoffs. And the key to you scoring big is betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something as simple like a player to score a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's another reason to watch your favorite players crush it in the playoffs. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big during the NFL playoffs with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code JOHN, J-O-H-N. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Let's start with Marcus Freeman because when he first got the job and he lost to Marshall, I remember, too, he was in a game like an absolute dogfight against Cal. I'm like, I don't know if he's going to make it through his first year. And kind of righted the ship. And obviously, since then, the recruiting has gone up another level. Last year, they were pretty solid. And this year, they lose to NIU. And it felt like, is it happening again? And they clearly got Riley Leonard rolling. Their defense is fantastic. And now a couple months later, they've beaten Georgia and Penn State and are waiting for the winner of Ohio State in Texas. So just an incredible accomplishment. I mean, tonight is about two guys. One guy's 38, and if you watched any of the viral clips of the two of them at press conferences, James Franklin's kind of like a podcaster. Never shuts up, always has takes, which I appreciate. And Marcus Freeman was serious as a heart attack, trying not to take the bait, but trying not to be an asshole. But he had much more of a vibe like, I'm here to kick ass and take names. And James, his personality is what it is. He's a recruiter, outgoing personality, but can't win this game. And we talked about it coming in. Like, once Marcus Freeman beats Georgia, it's like, that is an enormous win. I don't want to say he's playing with house money, but they're one of their best defensive linemen's injured. Their star running back is playing with a huge brace on his knee. And hell, before the Indiana game, he was battling another injury. And they lose multiple offensive linemen in this game. Their quarterback at one point in time looks like he gets a concussion. Then they bring in the backup who, as someone told me, they're like, you realize he was the Tony the Tiger MVP last year of their bowl game. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, he started the bowl game and he was the MVP. So I went back and looked, and he threw for like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then I'm watching him slinging around on that final drive of the first half. I'm like, I kind of hope Riley Leonard comes back. In the second half, Leonard throws an awful interception to the defensive end. but they just made plays. And their defense, their pass defense was fantastic. Part of that was Drew Allar, but just listen, that's a fantastic win by Notre Dame. They could lose by however many in the national championship. Who gives a shit? I mean, Marcus Freeman, that Marshall loss, that NIU loss, I don't want to say it gets erased, but no one's talking about that anymore. And that NIU loss was going to be really hard for him to shake. And now it feels like this basically erases it all. And to win the way they did, I mean, they're down 10 nothing, and then they come storming back on a 17 0 run to take the lead 17 to 10. Then Penn State takes the lead 24 to 7. And listen, I got Penn State. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good here. Penn State got their mojo back. Obviously, Penn State blows a coverage. A guy trips. Wide receiver makes the safety miss in space, scores, ties the game. Then Penn State goes 3 and out with like under 3 minutes to go. I mean, just a terrible series, god awful series. And Notre Dame gets the ball. They're driving. And then, listen, Penn State's pass rush is elite. Abdul Carter, who we'll get into here in a second, and they just make a couple big plays. They force Notre Dame to punt with under a minute. And then Drew Allar, who to me, beside Marcus Freeman winning this game, to me, the headline for Penn State is James Franklin loses another big game and their quarterback crumbles. This was a guy that I was kind of buying into. And I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, this guy is an ascending talent. Look at what he's done the last couple games. Watch this guy pass. Some of those throws that he made against Oregon, some of the throws that he made against Boise State, and then you realize, yeah, it's in a dome, controlled environment, and just letting it loose. And then you watch him tonight, he's throwing balls off his back foot like he's Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers. Turns out he's like Jameis Winston, and balls are just floating up in the air. They're not even close to his wide receiver. He got bailed out on a pick because of a questionable pass interference call, but he was atrocious. I mean, he really was. And as someone who thought that he had some momentum coming in like hell, and listen, people in the NFL have been talking about it too. Could he enter the draft? Could he make a late push if they were to win this game and he were to look good, to compete for like a top 10 pick? I mean, tonight he looked like a 6th-rounder. He looked awful. And it's one thing like you're getting pressured, you're getting overwhelmed at the line of scrimmage. He was just not very frenetic in the pocket, refused to set his feet, throwing just off his back foot, floating balls in the air that were just really, really bad. And you talk about a guy, I don't want to say he hurt his stock because he wasn't even declared to come out to the draft, but like that conversation ended tonight. Go back to school. I do think, he's not a great athlete, right? At one point in time when all the hype was growing a couple years ago when he was about to be the starter, it was like, we got a Josh Allen. Well, we saw tonight Riley Leonard, who is a much, much better runner of the football. And honestly, tonight was a much better thrower. I mean, made some fantastic throws to his tight end, putting it above DBs. But to me, Drew Allar, that performance tonight leaves a stinking everyone that watched it that's in the NFL that would just be like, go back to school, man. That's the right move. Go back to school. Work on your craft. Because that interception he threw across his body over the middle of the field that lost Penn State the game is something that's going to be hard for him to like walk back on campus. Can I tell you about my friends at Via? Here's the thing. I'm a big CBD guy. I know some of you love THC. Either way, they got something for everybody. Via is trusted by over 500,000 people. And the great part is, whether you're looking to just chill and relax, watch some TV, watch some games, whether you're like me and need something to sleep, I use these Dream gummies. You can mix and match the power of the THC versus the CBD. You can go no THC. You can go 100 milligrams of THC. I like just a little bit of THC. And in these Dream gummies, it has 90 milligrams of CBD. Cannot recommend it enough. So if you're 21 or over, go to the link to Via's website in our description and use the code JOHN for 15% off. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice. Here's the thing. It's made in the USA. It's an industry leader.
Their products range from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC. That's a great attribute that, let's face it, most people don't have. So you can control what you like. I like CBD. Maybe you like THC. If you're 21 or over, check out the link to Via in our description and use the code JOHN and receive 15% off. And if you're new to Via, receive a free gift of your choice. After your purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Tell them our podcast. We sent you this year. Enhance your everyday with Via. There is no telling it's 24 to 24 that you're no lock to win the game. No guarantee at all. And I got no problem being aggressive, right? You have Tyler Warren's a top 20 pick. Singleton, who does not get the ball enough, number 10. I like Allen, but to me, the ratio of those two guys, it should be like 80% 10, 20% 13, but it feels like they have like some I don't know if it's in the NIL deals that they have to get an equal share of the carries, but it's insane. But Singleton's a starting NFL running back. And, Singleton a couple times was open and Aller didn't even come close to hitting him. There was one that he would have scored early in the game that they had to settle for a field goal that he technically dropped, but it was an atrocious pass. It was a little route to the flat that would have walked right in if he just lays it on his hands. Instead, he throws it behind him. He like hits him in the knee. And that interception is just something that uh, it just cannot happen. Not when you've been a multi-year starter, not in a game of this magnitude. Like, just eat the ball. Worst case scenario. Under no circumstances can you turn it over. Honestly, in that spot, especially on that play where his first read wasn't open, he didn't really scramble, but he shuffled his feet, he moved in the pocket. You are much better off just throwing the ball into the dirt or at the guy's feet than putting it in harm's way. Because honestly, you hit the Notre Dame defensive back in stride, and that's just something that'd be really really hard if you were a diehard Penn State fan. Listen, it's one thing to lose the game. Notre Dame's clearly really good. They have a ton of NFL talent. They have a ton of young sophomore and freshman guys that are going to be NFL players. They obviously have a really good coach. They have an excellent defensive coordinator, Al Golden. You might have lost in overtime, but you can't lose it that way. And it's hard. Like, I don't necessarily put that individual throw on James Franklin, but the entire performance in the second half, they went into halftime. And I thought for 90% of the first half, Penn State was kicking the shit out of Notre Dame. They were shoving him around. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Penn State offensive coordinator, who everyone just gets on their knees and is just constantly like giving him a reach around, Kolnecki, Kolnecki, Kolnecki. So I just hear everyone talking about it. I'm like, yeah, Kolnecki, Kolnecki. This guy's a great offensive coordinator. I'm watching him tonight. Like, what are you doing? Why do you keep insist on passing it when Notre Dame's defensive backfield is actually pretty good and your quarterback, you could tell like through the first couple series, someone needs to talk to this guy on the sideline. Someone needs to get him calmed down. He is way off. He looks rattled, and I don't even know why he would be. It's not like he'd even been touched, but he had been really bad. And you're running the ball with ease right down their throat. Keep running the ball, but he kept passing it, passing it, passing it, passing it. Honestly, the first half felt like it should have been 20-3. Instead, it's 10-3. They come out in the second half because Notre Dame gets the ball, goes right down the field, scored a touchdown. And then Penn State comes out and looks like crap. It's like Marcus Freeman, I don't know what he said to the boys at halftime, but whatever he said worked. I don't even know if James Franklin said a word because they came out lifeless. And that's when everything really flipped. And I just, listen, James Franklin, there's no disputing the talent the guy can accumulate. He can isolate elite players, he can recruit elite players, and he can get them to come to Penn State. Because, I mean, they might got, I mean, Abdul Carter, you could make the argument he should be if you're not comfortable with one of these quarterbacks being a top 15 player at his position in the NFL, like if you don't think Cam Ward or Shador Sanders is going to be a top half starter in the NFL, and you wanted to take Abdul Carter number one overall if you're the Tennessee Titans, I could not argue with you. He is basically has the same measurables as Micah Parsons. 6'3", about 240, 245 pounds. His pass rushing ability to get around the edge is elite. And the other thing that he's proven these last couple games, clearly his shoulder or arm is kind of messed up. He's playing in pain and he's playing his ass off. And the athleticism, the violence, his ability to get down the line of scrimmage and make plays, his ability to chase guys downs. He just, like, there's not much you can do. That move, that speed move, when you're at that size, translates. And if you go, he has a lot of similarities to Micah Parsons. This year, he was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, All American. Like, that's going to work in the NFL. I have a hard time seeing him not be a high end pass rusher in the NFL. Like that, what he has translates. Like that 100% works. He should definitely be in the conversation for the number one overall pick. So you're talking about a team that has a guy that's worthy of the number one overall pick, one of the best playmakers in the draft in Warren, an NFL starting running back in Singleton, and the downfall of them tonight was the quarterback. Meanwhile, you got a quarterback in Riley Leonard who outplays Allar. And listen, Colin's been saying this, like he kind of likes Riley Leonard. I'm like, I don't know, he doesn't pass the ball. And then tonight he just threw some dimes. Obviously, as a runner, he's fantastic. And their star running back, Love, is battling a knee injury that he hurt last week. So he puts on the big brace, and pregame, they're like, yeah, I don't know how much he's going to be able to give him. And even Marcus Freeman before the game is like, he'll give us what he's got. And at first, he was barely playing in the first half. You're like, yeah, it's probably just not going to have it tonight because he's injured. And then the second half, I don't know if he warmed that thing up at halftime. He looked much better, scored a fantastic touchdown where he refused to be denied. He jumped over a guy, which I guess was the sixth time he's done it this year. Now, granted, he used the other leg, but from a talent standpoint, especially as the injury started mounting up for Notre Dame, Penn State had dramatically more talent on the field. So, James Franklin, when you're the CEO head coach, to come out in the second half when you had been playing so well in the first half and be so lifeless, like, isn't you're the rah-rah guy. Like, that's your gig. Like, you're the Mike Tomlin, you're the Jim Harbaugh. You're not calling either side of the ball. You just stand there on the sideline looking at the play call, but your headset's up. And Marcus Freeman, who's also, he's not the defensive or offensive coordinator, like fucking rallied the troops at halftime and came out swinging, came out for blood. Man, I'm a little amped up because I had Penn State tonight, but man, one thing is when you gamble on a team, you like get a much better feel for them. And obviously, if I knew that Drew Allar was going to look like a scrub, I never would have made that wager. But you talk about a guy that, and I wasn't alone. I was texting around. A lot of people were very interested to watch him tonight, and he crumbled like a cookie. I mean, he completely fell apart. Even before the throw that is one of the worst throws you'll see in all of bowl season. Jalen Milroe had a couple in his game against Michigan. But given the stakes, that final throw by Drew Allar is the worst throw of the playoffs so far. You remove that throw, the rest of the game was like a C minus D plus. And that obviously throw is an F. I mean, it doesn't get any worse. And pretty cool moment that Notre Dame's kicking game was so bad most of the season. And then for the guy to hit the game winner with his dad filming, like it was a very entertaining game. And just listen, one knock on Marcus, or not Marcus, on Brian Kelly was like, he couldn't win the big game. Couldn't win the big game. And then you get Brian Kelly playing Kirby Smart, who's won multiple national championships, beats him. Then he plays Penn State with, some of the best players in the country that are all going to get drafted really, really high, beats him. Now, one takeaway I had is even if Penn State had pulled this off, I think the national championship is Friday, which most people think Ohio State's going to win, rightfully so. And obviously, if Texas were to upset Ohio State, it'd be easy to be excited about Texas. I have a hard time seeing Notre Dame beat either one of those teams, especially we'll find out. Well, maybe we won't because it's not the pros, it's college football. The health of, you start missing your left tackle. It's hard. And listen, you got to be football nerd. But even before the season, a guy that was potentially going to be a first-round pick, their starting left tackle, might have been their right tackle, definitely one of their tackles, like tore his knee, is out for the season. So this is a team that, you are on some serious backups on the offensive line. But Notre Dame's tough, man. They are mentally tough. They're mentally tougher than Penn State. That's for fucking damn sure. I mean, it does not feel like Notre Dame would have blown the coverage with what was on the line with like under 5 minutes to go. Would not have happened. They might have given up a completion, but that given play would not have happened. That play kind of symbolizes like the James Franklin run. You're up 24-7, only a couple minutes left in the game. You could argue your best unit, defense, your all-star players are all out on the field, which is weird because they had looked terrible in the second half. Countless drives, Notre Dame drove it right down their throat. I don't know if Penn State was gassed. I don't know if they're just the wear and tear from the season. So most games Penn State's ever played in the history of their program. Now, granted, it's probably going to be the case for all these teams, given it's the playoffs are so long, and those teams that played in the first round. But that defense, from what they looked like early in the game to what they were at the end, was just even the second half as a whole was a shell of itself. And that you deserve credit if you're Marcus Freeman. Like, your guys did not get tired. You had backups who were ready to roll. I mean, hell, your backup quarterback came in and led a easy field goal drive. Honestly, I was kind of nervous he's going to lead a touchdown drive. And I just think Marcus Freeman, to be a guy under 40, to have your team in the national championship, when you have things you have to overcome, like academic requirements, you have things that you have to battle in terms of your administration with your the academic standing of your institution that Kirby Smart doesn't, that Alabama does not, that Ryan Day does not, that the top programs in the country do not have to battle, that you have to. And you've still found a way to put together a team that's fucking good. So congrats to Notre Dame. Very, very cool game. Ohio State, Notre Dame, they've played obviously a couple years ago. That'd be a fun matchup. I don't think we can lose. I mean, if you're a television network, Notre Dame is kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, of college football. They haven't won a national championship in a long time, but you put them on TV, the needle is moved, and a lot of people watch. And obviously, Texas and Ohio State are massive brands. So whoever wins this game tomorrow, playing Notre Dame, and listen, Notre Dame's going to be an underdog, and it's going to be all the pressure would be on Texas or Ohio State in that game, which is kind of a good spot to be if you're Marcus Freeman. And the reality is, even if you were to get your ass kicked in that game, it feels like a more impressive season than any of the ones that Brian Kelly ever had. And in a weird way, that James Franklin, you get to the Final Four and it feels really good. When you really look at it, it's like, well, he beat SMU at home, who we all think SMU kind of, sucks for a playoff team. And then you beat Boise State, who, listen, we respect Boise State, but how good really was it? And then you lose a game that you were up 24-17 late in the fourth quarter. It's like, for as awesome as this 2-week stretch has been for Marcus Freeman, you could say tonight was just as bad for James Franklin. It's just another one. It's just like, oh, you can't beat Ohio State, can't beat Michigan, couldn't beat Oregon. Now he can't beat Notre Dame. It's like, well, maybe one day in the semifinals we'll get to play Iowa. Maybe we'll get to play Wisconsin. Maybe we'll get to play Nebraska. No, probably not. You're going to have to play Georgia. You're going to have to play Notre Dame. You're going to have to play LSU or Alabama. You're going to have to play Texas. You're going to have to play Oregon. You're going to have to play whoever is some elite team. That's who you're going to truly make a run in these playoffs. You might be able to get an easier matchup in the first round. And that's what we've been saying forever about Penn State over the last 10 years of the BCS or whatever it has been, was 9, that they would have made 6 or 7 of the playoffs. Well, cool. And depending on your matchup, you probably would have been one and done in most of them. And if you would have got an easier matchup, you might have won. And then when you played a better team, you would have lost. And the one thing I'd say for Penn State is I know you recruit really well, but you are losing some really, really elite players. So your opportunity because if you're James Franklin, just like Marcus Freeman, you won this game, you're in the national championship. Even if you lose, everyone's off your back. You've won 3 playoff games. Now you lose Abdul Carter, who, if his arm checks out, I would say at worst is going third and has a chance to go first or second. You got Tyler Warren, who I would say the latest he goes is the mid-teens. It wouldn't shock me if he went somewhere 8 to 12 range. So you got two guys that are going to go in the top 12. Singleton probably be a starter for someone next year. Definitely play a lot depending on the team. And clearly, you got a lot of other guys that are going to get drafted in the mid rounds. Is your team going to be better next year? I don't know. I don't know. And with Tyler Warren gone, you're going to depend more on Aller to like throw it to the wide receivers. I saw him attempt that tonight, and it didn't go that well. Now, part of it is, what's weird about Penn State. Like, I understand Notre Dame not having the best wide receivers in the country. It's hard. Stanford never did in their heyday either. Why? It's hard to academic requirements. It's difficult. It's a position that you're going to struggle to get into school, and it's reflective of their best teams. Not saying that they can't get an NFL guy or two, but they're never going to have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase rolling out in their wide receiver room. But like Penn State, what's your excuse? How do you not have like your best wide receiver, even if he's not a Jeremiah Smith? It's like, yeah, this guy's going to go in the second or third round. Where's that guy? How does that not exist? And I think that really hurt him tonight, or just even this season, is their wide receiver room was like, could be a little better, which is crazy because they have the best tight end in the country in their running game, and clearly their offensive line is awesome. Um, I haven't placed a bet in a while, and I needed to get my heart going. I needed a little rush, and it was cool until you lose, and then you're like, yeah, that wasn't that cool. Maria's like, why are you screaming in the other room? I'm like, oh yeah, got a little money on this game. It's going well, and then it's not going well, and then you just want to kick down the fucking door. But everyone have a great day, and let's enjoy Texas Ohio State, and I'll see you tomorrow.